What's up, guys? Tyler here. In this episode, Les and I discuss the concept of preparing yourself to take on a challenge. Whether that's strength, fitness, fat loss, career, or otherwise, you have to have a few key principles in place that are going to keep you on the right track and set you up for success. Let's hit that intro.
Buckle up and get ready to smash your health and fitness goals. This is FortitudeRx Radio, bringing you engaging conversations that inspire you to take action and take control. Physical and mental resilience, strength, nutrition, rehab, mindset, and more. We've got the prescription. This is FortitudeRx Radio. Here are your hosts, Tyler Campbell and Les Kais.
We really want to talk about getting your mindset right before you even start doing things, and then knowing exactly how to prepare yourself for doing the actions necessary to make these changes. So with regards to accepting the challenge, Les, what is your take on when someone is starting a diet or a fitness journey or anything like that? What is the prerequisite sort of mentality that needs to be built before they start taking the actual physical steps?
Most people have a hard time taking ownership of these things. They're just kind of like a plastic bag floating around in the wind, and they're wishing and hoping and wanting things to come to them instead of actually going after it themselves. Typically, honestly, too, the biggest thing when it comes to like starting a challenge or changing your life or whatever is it's not the actual actions that hold us back, it's our thoughts. And we kind of talk ourselves out of things, and we push things off, or we think, oh, that's going to be hard. But most of the time when we actually get into the action process, things aren't as hard as they seem. It's just the thoughts that come beforehand. So we kind of have some steps here on how to accept those challenges and take ownership of your own life and of your fitness or mentality or whatever it may be, and actually like figure out a plan on how I'm going to attack these things and not just wait for them to come to me.
Right. And I think that a big part of this is knowing that, those actions you talk about where you feel like it's going to be so hard and stuff like that, the mentality of like building up this scary monster of a transformation that you need to make. And even if it's not a transformation, even if it's just a small amount of fat loss and stuff like that, people can build up that fear of starting because it seems like such a big undertaking, when in reality, once you start doing the work and you look back on like a month of doing it, you see, oh, that wasn't so bad. But looking forward to things is always building it up more and seeming like it's going to be some huge monster you have to defeat.
I think a lot of people, they stare at themselves in the mirror every day. They look at a scale every single day. And they're looking right now in the complete present, and they're really just discouraging themselves instead of focusing on the process and taking in those wins. Like, if you are doing everything you need to actually make a change, but you look in the mirror or you step on the scale and you see something you don't like, you all of a sudden start beating yourself up, and you start taking away some of those wins of, I drank enough water, I stuck to my diet, I got in my exercise, so on and so forth. And they don't realize that these things take some time. You're not going to just get like immediate satisfaction. And really and truthfully, the quicker something comes, the quicker it's going to go. So if you take a little bit more time doing something, it's going to stick around longer. Like if something takes you 3 months to build up strength or fitness or whatever, it's probably going to stick around for 3 months or more. But if you see something happen within a day, it's probably also going to be able to go away in a day. So everybody wants the quick fix, but the quick fix also comes with a quick dissipation of those gains or goals or whatever you may have achieved.
Right. It's just like using like the waist shrinking wraps thing is mostly about water. And therefore, if you just drink some water again, you gain that weight right back the next day. So it's one of those things where it's like, well, that didn't do anything for me, I guess. Might be great for a photo shoot. I don't know. I've never done one of those. But I think that's a good point that, we have all these small wins that we should enjoy them basically, or allow yourself to enjoy them, because the scale, like you said, may not be moving. And it's one of those things, like the mentality of winning when it comes to these things is that you have to know what parts of these things are winning. And part of that is drinking enough water. It's about hitting your calories or macronutrients or whatever it may be, doing your workouts each week or each day. It's one of those things. It's like you have to allow yourself to accept the wins for what they are, because when you look back a year from now, if you've done the very simple process, like honestly, we have a list of like 10 things that you could do basically, that if you do all these things in a year, you'll see a massive difference. It's just that in the interim, it doesn't seem like it's changing, but it is making small changes and wins the whole time. And that's as we know, builds up to a huge win in the end. And so with regards to like accepting a challenge and stuff like that, it's not just about saying, do I want to do this next 90-day challenge, or do I want to do this like 30-day challenge or whatever? It's just an internal challenge to yourself that you need to be able to accept. That's like, do I want to get out of bed earlier, even if it's a 30-minute thing, just to start walking outside or whatever it may be, or sort of just making your meals for the week, whatever it is, doesn't really matter. You're accepting a challenge that is on the minute or on the hour, on this day. It's not necessarily the next 3 months. It's like, are you accepting the challenge of today? I'm going to do this hour. I'm not going to procrastinate, whatever it may be. That's really the challenge that you're facing, is your own internal mechanisms for keeping yourself comfortable.
And you need to lean into a little bit of the discomfort. Usually, if it's uncomfortable, it means you probably should do it. And like I said earlier, the discomfort is usually more of a mental thing, and when you actually get into doing it, it's not so bad. Honestly, this morning was one of those days where I was laying in bed, I was really comfortable, I knew I had a lot of stuff that I needed to get done, and like just simply making myself get out of bed was kind of a challenge. But the second my feet hit the floor, I was like, that wasn't that hard. Like, why was it so hard for me to get out of bed? And it was just like mental, because I was comfortable. I was warm. The blankets felt great. And like, I was just laying there like, man, I probably could sit here another 30 minutes or so and just like roll around, but it would probably give me more of a mental win to go ahead and get my ass out of bed and get started. So that's what I did. And like, I got a small sense of achievement just from like that one simple thing of, okay, I'm going to make a conscious decision of, I'm going to get out of bed 30 minutes earlier. And it still wasn't even like crazy late or early or anything like that. But I got a little small win, and I started out my day with that little small win. And then it really even goes back to like the whole like make your bed when you first get up thing. I've actually started to do that because that also gives me a small sense of achievement of like, okay, my bed looks made. I feel put together. Like now I can start my day out and feel like I've already accomplished something.
Yeah, I think that is a good point with the small sense of accomplishment. Is like, if you are allowing yourself to let these small chores and like habits that are positive be wins, and like allow them to actually mean something to you, then they become more meaningful. If you allow small negatives to become meaningful, you end up snowballing into negativity a lot of times. And I've been through that plenty of days of my life, and months at a time. It's one of those things coming through with like depression and stuff like that, is like, you can snowball that way super easily, and you have to actually like be prepared to be positive about some of those small wins, like getting out of bed, making your bed, whatever it may be. I'll be honest, I don't really make my bed, but I probably should. It's one of those things, is like that. It is what it is. I think that that's like the whole instant gratification thing from like social media, getting likes, or just being on social media at all. Even if you're not posting, you're getting instant gratification because you're constantly scrolling to a new thing and seeing something you like, and it's just sort of a constant stream of things that are releasing dopamine and stuff like that. It's just forming these habits that are not helping you. Whereas you can get instant gratification from getting out of bed when you're supposed to, and making your bed how you're supposed to, and eating the meal you're quote unquote supposed to, because you have to just see it as the same thing. You have to be able to look at it as a positive thing, as like, this is affecting my life in a positive manner, versus scrolling on my phone in bed. It's instant gratification to your brain, but not to your will and your discipline and all that sort of stuff.
Those moments of like finding little things of discipline, um, those are going to mean so much more to you than like scrolling through your phone and stuff. Like your goal isn't going to be the best scroller on Instagram. Like your goal is going to be like, I want to get a promotion at my job, or I want to hit a PR, or I want to see a new body fat low, or whatever. And you're not going to get that from scrolling on your phone. I do have one simple rule that I've been trying to follow for a couple years now, and it's that if I have a task that I know needs to be done, and I have a moment where I feel like I don't want to do that, I then try to make myself get up and do it in that moment. Because if I put it off, I start to have this sense of like, I was being lazy. And this goes down to like the smallest things, like taking out the trash or making out my bed. Like if I'm sitting on the couch and I am watching a TV show or whatever, but I know, it's trash day tomorrow, and it's 9 o'clock at night, and the trash is going to be picked up at 8 a.m. Instead of thinking, I can probably get up and do it in the morning, I'll just get up and do it right then. And then I kind of have one thing off my mind of like, okay, cool, like I got that done, I achieved that. So these really small wins and forcing yourself to do like these little tiny minute tasks that you usually would put off, they will carry over into your fitness, into your job, all of these different things. So if you can just simply make yourself do something in the moment that you don't necessarily feel like doing, the actual task isn't that challenging. It's just that thought of, I'm comfortable right now. and I don't feel like getting up and doing this. And really, it's going to take you 2 minutes to get that done, and that 2 minutes gives you, several minutes of satisfaction, and it takes something off your mind that needs to get done.
Yeah, I think that the comfort versus satisfaction thing's a big point too to be made. Is like, yeah, you'll feel physically comfortable and even mentally comfortable laying there not doing anything, but like you'll get a small sense of satisfaction out of doing it, and that adds up way more than comfort adds up. Comfort is just in the moment; it's just sort of a thing that is, but you don't compound into more and more comfort the same way you can compound into more and more satisfaction with doing the thing you're supposed to do. Especially if you know you're supposed to do it and you don't do it, that's where you can compound into negativity and feeling bad for yourself and things like that. I mean, that's a constant battle for me. I've been a procrastinator my whole life and stuff like that. And it's one of those things where it's like it's super hard to break it, but you start small and you win each little moment you can. Even if you start winning 25% of the moments, you're still winning more things.
Exactly.
And the more you win, the better you get at winning.
Yeah, and like those things aren't just going to come. Like you might not be motivated to get up and do these small tasks, but you kind of have to force it. Like you've got to push yourself into these things for it to start compounding and growing on itself. And plus, like, if you can go ahead and knock out the small things that you need to do, you can eventually get back to that moment of comfort of sitting on the couch and doing nothing, but you get to have that sense of comfort with a sense of achievement, versus when you're just sitting there and you push everything off, you just have that sense of comfort. You don't have the sense of achievement. So go ahead and get your shit done, and then you can both sit down and enjoy yourself and actually feel like you accomplished some things that day. So I'm not saying like, oh, you can never be comfortable. It's just that if you can push yourself through the moments of discomfort, the comfort is even more comfortable.
Right. The comfort of being in bed too is one big thing that's like, if you start viewing, okay, so the issue with viewing like food as like a reward system is obviously like it can build a negative associations with food and exercise and stuff like that. But with sleep, if you view that as like, this is my reward for a job well done, you will absolutely love that fucking night's sleep. Like you'll feel like you've accomplished everything. Everything's off your mind. You're doing great. You'll sleep hard all through the night, and you wake up. You just have to know that my reward's now over. It's time to earn that reward again for later. Exactly. So that's when you have to get up and do the work again. So if you can get a reward every single night for like just a day's work, like relish in that, like love it. You know what I mean? Like everyone loves sleep. Just earn it and know that you're going to get that regardless. But like you'll feel even better if you like put an actual effort towards earning it. For, we know that these quick fixes aren't real. We've already gone over that sort of thing. So like allow yourself to be the quick fix in the moment of like, in this moment, I'm going to fix whatever it may be. And, I'll get a rolling effort of compounding solutions out of that essentially of, I take the trash out and now I sit back down and I feel more comfortable from getting up and doing something and sitting back down and feeling great, basically. But what we want to go into basically is our 3 steps, 3.5, we'll say, of how to actually accept a challenge for yourself and how it's really the only way to grow. We know now that like challenging yourself in the moment, in the hour, day, month, whatever it is really the case we need for getting better at something. If you keep everything easy, hard things never get easier. But if you make things hard for yourself, the easy things stay ridiculously easy. And like making your bed becomes nothing or getting out of bed becomes nothing because you've challenged yourself in such a way that now is almost nothing at all.
Yeah, the easy stuff just becomes routine at that point.
Yeah, and so our 3 steps essentially, like we'll start out with 1. So the big thing that we have here is like, as people with the whole comfort argument and stuff like that, is that we're obviously avoiding something. So the first step is the introspection of looking inside about what you're avoiding doing. And if it's taking out the trash, then so be it. But like on the broad range of things when it comes to if you're looking to hit new strength PRs or get that job interview or promotion or whatever it may be, lose fat, fit into a dress that you want to fit into or jeans or suit, whatever it may be, it doesn't really matter. That there are certain steps that you're avoiding doing because you're looking at them like they're the big monster that they are.
Everybody has goals, and we always kind of think of these goals as like a wishful thinking, but you need to be able to sit back and reflect and think and have a conversation with yourself as to how much do these goals really mean to me. And most of the time they actually mean more than just like a wishful thought. Like it's actually some stuff that like we really and truthfully, it would change our lives if we felt better about ourselves looking in the mirror or, whatever these things may be. Like they actually can be life changing to accept these goals and to actually like have that conversation with myself of like, what are these steps that I need to take and how hard really is it going to be? If you can have that conversation with yourself and accept this new challenge and this goal, something small as like losing 10, 20 pounds can have a compounding effect on like your confidence, in your relationship, in your job, in just about anything you do. So have that conversation with yourself and really like look deep inside yourself and say like, am I capable of this? And 99.9% of the time you are going to be capable of whatever it is this goal may be.
Yep, especially if you look at it as constituent parts of solving that riddle of like eating less calories is part of it, and so is working out and all this stuff. If you just add one by one and do the small things and they add up, then you're good to go. Uh, it, it's hard because there are a bunch of steps to do, but stop looking at the whole staircase when you just need to take the first step, basically.
Yeah, and small steps are going to add up a lot more than like trying to take these big leaps at things. Like you don't hit a 400-pound PR and then say, all right, next week I'm going to hit 500 pounds. You have to hit 410, then 420, then 430, so on and so forth. That's just like a lifting analogy, but that goes with everything else. Like just take one small little shuffle step per day, and that's going to add up over time more than once a week or once a month trying to take this giant leap towards something.
Right. And those small wins for PRs analogy is for 10 pounds added to a PRs could take, months and months depending on your level of fitness and stuff like that too. So there's all these steps in between the goals and stuff like that you have to accept essentially. So number 2 for us when it comes to accepting the challenge. So again, first one was introspection essentially. Number 2 is the principle of ready, fire, aim. This is a business book actually, but you know the phrase of ready, aim, fire sort of thing, but ready, fire, aim is the idea of you just need to start doing the steps that you know you need to do. Mm-hmm. And once you've fired that bullet, if you want to make that analogy, essentially you're making progress almost no matter what. But what needs to happen later is that you can then aim yourself into the perfect direction you want to go. You don't always have to be perfect to start. You just have to actually start.
Yeah, we typically talk ourselves out of the whole like start part. So whenever you have that urge of like, you know what, I want to take ownership of my life and I want to lose this weight or get jacked or hit this PR or whatever, go after it right then. Stop deciding like, oh, well, okay, like I have this family function in 3 weeks, so the week after that is when I'll get started. Like, no, make the change right now. Like once you have that feeling of I'm motivated, I want to get this done, go ahead and start. Stop like waiting around and like pushing things off because you're going to talk yourself out of it when that time actually comes around, or your effort's going to be half-assed when you actually get to it. So go ahead and make the jump. Go ahead and start making some changes. Go ahead and start making these small steps, and then you can aim yourself later on anyway. Plus, to be completely honest, the perfect plan is the one that adapts and adjusts all the time. You can write down like, all right, in 8 months, I'm going to accomplish this, but you might have a family tragedy. You might like freaking get injured. Like you might have anything life throws its way at you. So if you could go ahead and just get started and apply these principles and actually make some like changes in your life, you can adjust your focus as these challenges come. But if you just think I'm going to sit and I'm going to plan for a month or two and then I'll get started, that plan's going to change. So going ahead and getting started is going to be the best thing you could possibly do. So stop putting it off and actually make a change like right now.
The whole perfect moment thing, we already know. I mean, that's almost a cliche in itself, is that there's just no perfect moment. It's just now, you just start doing it. And like you said, if there's a family function coming up or something like that, where it's like, oh, I'll start after Memorial Day because there's a barbecue coming up or whatever. It's like, well, shit, just start now and then use that as your like off day and you'll be fine.
Absolutely.
But you've already started. You've already had 2 weeks under your belt or whatever that is at this point. It's much easier to like stop, just not do anything basically and just never start than it is to start. But you just got to do it, and then it'll get easier and easier.
Yeah, you just have to scale and prioritize on those challenging days, or like the days where like, okay, I'm 3 weeks into this, but it is Memorial Day and I'm going to eat ribs and drink a few beers. You don't beat yourself up for that. You've already had 3 weeks of hard work. You do get to reward yourself a little bit that day, and then you just get back to work the day after. So you're just gonna have to like kind of scale and prioritize some of these things. And like if you make a goal of like I have to work out every single day, whether that's like just like some simple light exercise or whatever, maybe you don't need to lift heavy or kill yourself on Memorial Day, but you just go for like a nice little 30-45 minute walk or something and get some movement exercise in, and you had a small win for that day. So just kind of scaling and prioritizing on some of those days that might challenge you, and not like demonizing like, oh, I really fell off today and like now I'll pick it back up again next week because I just fell off. Like it's fine. You don't have to beat yourself up for falling off your plan for a day. Just get back on it the next day.
Yeah, and I think one of the principles I sort of like to go back to anyway is like you're not even on or off a diet or on or off a program. You're either closer to or further from your goals. So like some days you'll just be further away, and that's fine, like a Memorial Day sort of barbecue or whatever. Other days you'll be on point for everything. You just are in the spectrum of going back and forth all the time, in every second and stuff like that. And, you just want to sort of edge yourself towards your goals more often than not. And as you get better and better doing that, you'll push to the red line of like constantly going towards your goals. You'll still need the bandwidth at some point to back off and like enjoy Christmas dinner, obviously. So just let yourself in the easier times, like push it a little bit harder towards your goals. And that'll be, much more beneficial than just never going towards it. And you'll stop thinking about yourself as on or off a diet. And at that point, you don't feel like because of this one day or 1 week of being quote unquote off that you just can't get back on now. So that's one thing I like to think about is like, you're not off just because you missed a few days or whatever. You just need to pick back up and keep moving.
Yeah, and the thing is like you need to earn those off days. So like if you do work hard for a month, you've now earned the right to have an off day. Or maybe you do have an off week because you go on vacation or whatever, but you actually earned it. Not this like bull crap like, oh, like I ate good today, so like now I can have pie at a candy bar, and that's what you think every single day. Working hard for a little bit longer period of time, you'll actually enjoy that barbecue or that piece of pie or whatever even more. But you'll also have a little bit more discipline to where in the past you might have eaten half of the pie and now you're going to eat one piece and say, oh wow, I really enjoyed that, but that's all I need.
Yeah. Once you've removed the constant influx of like treats, and I don't even mean that with food, just like little rewards you give yourself outside of things like going to sleep, like we said earlier, but like when you finally do like get those treats, even if it's like once a week or something like that, it means so much more to you because you've earned it and it feels good. And again, it's not an eating disorder sort of method where it's like, I haven't burned 1,000 calories on the stair steppers today. I can't eat anything. It's just like, hold off on the heavy calorie things that you love so much so that when you have it, you can actually like savor it and sit there and like taste it and not just like stuff it down your face. Cause like I've been there before and it's like, I can do that at any moment basically of like, I'm gonna eat this entire bag of chips for sure.
Yeah, and there's a difference in enjoying and indulging too. Like with
Mhm.
those things, go ahead and accept that you do get to eat one serving of it and enjoy that one serving and talk yourself out of the second slice of pie or the whole bag of chips or whatever. If you just make a rule of I'm going to enjoy this, but I'm not going to get full on this, it'll kind of leave you with the sense of wanting to earn it again versus if you like make yourself sick off of something because you think, "Oh, I worked hard for this. I'm going to like eat this until I like feel absolutely sick." You're probably going to feel like crap. You're probably not going to even really want it again, so you're not going to want to have to earn it again.
That was our second step, just get moving, start going towards something. So step
Mm-hmm.
one, introspection. Step two, ready, fire, aim. Step three is holding on to these principles that you've developed over time and also implementing the changes into your life. So that's the half step of the three and a half to go. And so it's like actually making these switches so that you can sustain your progress and keep on sort of pushing towards it without much effort. So I think that one of the big things for me is like, now that I've spent, 16 years lifting and stuff like that since high school and all that sort of thing, like having a few beers or whatever, or eating a bunch of food now that I'm like, I have enough muscle that it doesn't really matter almost at all for my metabolism or my body composition or anything like that. Like it means so much less to me to do that because it's like, I can just do it and not worry about it. Obviously, if I were to just drink all day and do all that sort of stuff, it would eventually affect me. But because I have the physique and the musculature to handle it, there's no guilt involved for me because I know it's not going to matter at all in the long run. So it's like you have to give yourself the opportunity to like have this progress that's so very easy by doing the hard thing first.
Yeah, and like short-term discipline and discomfort and hard work will lead you to like long-term comfort, happiness, results, so on and so forth. So like if you kind of don't really like let yourself have any slack at the beginning, it allows for more slack later on. So like when you first started like hitting the gym hard and like putting on some muscle and stuff, you probably weren't like also just being a fat ass and indulging and like going off plan all the time. Like you were pretty strict, you were pretty hard on yourself at first, and it allowed you that now, a couple years down the road, or even in most cases, it's going to be a couple months or so, like you can enjoy those things again. You just kind of have to be hard on yourself when you first start, and then you can give yourself a little bit of slack later on down the road after you've earned that right.
And that comes down to like, and not just the actual physiology of it, but like just the habits of things, of just switching your habits from the things that are leading you towards your goals and away from your goals. Once you have the goals that are just, or the habits, excuse me, that are constantly pushing you towards your goals, the little things that take you away from it, just like they just bounce back over to being positive each time. So it's not, it just doesn't affect you the same way, mentality wise or anything else. So holding on to those principles of knowing exactly what you should do, accepting the challenge in the moment, just taking action all the time and stuff like that is really your biggest goal there. And like, so when we talk about that stuff, how do you actually implement these things into your life? We know that that's the biggest challenge is making it realistic for someone who's busy, someone who works, however many hours a week that keeps them from going to the gym for 2 hours a day, which I don't do, just to be clear. But like when I go, I spend a good amount of time there 4 days a week. I think that's a misconception as well, is how often you need to work out to make it matter. But implementing these things into your life shouldn't take more than like 4 to 8 hours a week, really, if you're trying hard enough for it to matter. So, Les, what are some of the things that you've been doing, the small changes you implement into your life?
So I'll kind of go back to like the whole we started this as a challenge, right? So we started this whole thing out like this is a challenge, and in 3 months or 4 months or whatever, I'm going to achieve this thing with these steps. So something I've done is a challenge called 75 Hard, and you have to drink a gallon of water a day, go do 2 workouts every single day. Both have to be at least 45 minutes. One has to be outdoors. You have to take a progress picture every day. Have to stick to some sort of diet. Cannot drink any alcohol. Oh yeah, read 10 pages out of a nonfiction self-help type book a day, right? So you have to do all these things for 75 days. And over the course of me doing that 2 times, so I did it for 50 days, fell off. I think I couldn't eat enough of my calories in a day, so I failed, okay? I maintained a lot of those same principles. I didn't necessarily strictly stay on it. And then I did 75 Hard again and completed the whole thing. And in the course of 8 months of me doing 75 Hard, still kind of half-assed doing it, and then really doing the whole thing again, I ended up losing like 35 pounds, got a lot leaner, felt a lot better. My mind cleared up. Like I just overall I just felt better. I was able to just work harder in the gym. I was able to connect better with people. Like my confidence went up, so on and so forth. But all of these things wouldn't have happened if I did this challenge and then just, okay, I did the challenge. Like now I'll just go back to my old self. No, I'm not taking a selfie every single day in my underwear like you're supposed to do with that. But like some things that I learned was if I try to do really hard cardio, like if I'm like, I'm going to do 20 minutes on the bike or a rower or stair stepper, and I'm going to do this 4 times a week, like I fall out of that. It's not sustainable for me. But what is sustainable is going on a 20, 30, or 45-minute walk once a day. And I found that with doing that, like I got some good cardio in. I was able to take that 30 minutes to like either talk to my wife and have good conversation or put a podcast in of something that like just helps me think a little bit clearer or something I want to learn about. So like I get some physical progress out of it. I can recover super easy from it, and it helps me like keep my mind fresh. So that's something that I just started implementing. And there's a lot of days where I don't really feel like doing it, but the second I make myself get up and just go on a 20 or 30-minute walk, I just feel like I feel a sense of accomplishment. I did the cardio that's going to get me a little bit closer to my goals. There's just a ton of freaking benefits from it. And honestly, like I would recommend everybody just going out and doing a 20-minute walk. Like you get to get outside and like get some fresh air. And everybody has probably 20 minutes out of their day that they could sacrifice to just go on a quick walk and get the health benefits, the mental benefits, so on and so forth. Another thing that I found was like drinking a gallon of water every single day can be a little bit challenging. And that's not something that I've always done in the past. But I may not need a whole gallon of water a day. But drinking a whole gallon of water a day for 75 days made it a lot easier to at least drink half a gallon of water every single day. So, that just set me up for another like small positive thing that I implemented in my daily life. Like now it's easy to at least get half to 3/4 gallon of water a day because I just kind of carried that over from the challenge into my daily life. No, I'm not reading 10 pages every single day, but I did find that if I do sit down and read 10 pages of a book, usually it does like kind of freshen up my mind and like it gives me a few little, just gives me another little sense of achievement, but it also will just, if I'm in a little bit of a rut and I feel off mentally, I know I can pick up a book and just read 10 simple pages and feel a little bit better after the fact. So I'm not doing 75 Hard, but I took a lot of those principles that I found over that 75 days. Like, oh, I know for a fact that if I do this, it helps me. I just take that, and now that's part of my daily routine.
Yeah, I think the whole gallon of water thing is a good, like, sort of analogy for the entire thing is like when you accept a challenge that's going to be really difficult to start out with for 3 months or whatever it may be, that you're going to have to do something that's like over the top hard potentially. Mm-hmm. But then when you finish the so-called challenge, you can back off to half of whatever you're doing and still make progress linearly versus dropping all the way back down to nothing and you're not making progress at all. So the point of accepting challenges and stuff like that is to make it hard enough for yourself that it changes how you view hard things or things that are too easy. You basically never want your days to be too easy unless you're purposefully taking a rest from working hard, because we know how an easy life doesn't necessarily lead to anything positive for anyone. It's just not, humans need challenges to begin with anyway, just from a brain chemical sort of thing, and achieving things just to be happy, and or at least not really sad all the time. And so part of that is also, going outside and walks and stuff like that, is like getting nature around you, things like that. Getting your eyes off of a screen is a big part of it that I struggle with. You wake up, you look at your phone immediately, and you're on phones all day. There's like a meme about like, I'm rewarding myself for looking at the medium-sized screen all day by going home and watching the big screen, and then I get in bed and look at my little screen for more rewards. And it's like, we're literally in this loop because we've been conditioned to be there. So get off the screen, look at trees and whatever you're walking with. If you're walking with a dog, walking with your spouse or whatever it may be, like engage with humans and look at nature and stuff like that. It literally does make you feel better. And that's something that I've learned just from having a dog the last couple of years, is like, I have to walk them, and it's been great for just enjoying outside basically. So I agree with that entirely. And that's good implementation stuff for sure. Just start moving basically. And I think that your goals are closer than you think, and less, as you say, they're closer and further than you think, if you want to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, so like your goals are both closer and further away than you may think they are. Closer in the sense that you can go ahead and start acting and making those really small steps, and it's going to come faster than you think, but it is probably a longer timeline than you wish it was. Like everybody does want to get their jacked summer body starting in April and be lean and jacked by June, but that's probably not going to happen. But if you can just like start making these like small daily changes in your routine and in your life, those goals are going to come a lot faster, but over a longer period of time. Like when I was doing that whole 8-month process, I wasn't necessarily thinking, oh, I need to, at the end of the 75 days, I better be jacked or anything like that. I just kind of leaned into the process and enjoyed the process of the whole thing. And then all of a sudden, it seemed like one day I looked back and I was like, how did 8 months go by? Like this seemed like it flew by. Now, during that 8 months, it did seem grueling. There were plenty of like long, hard days. But once that like 8-month period went by, I was like, wow, that actually wasn't like super, super hard or long. And in 8 months, like my life legitimately changed. Business got better. My relationship got better. I was blessed with tons of opportunities, like just in life, of like where I'm moving, and like all of these different things just came in a short 8-month period. If you really look at the big scale of things, like I probably wasted 3 or 4 years of training and fitness and all these things, and not made much progress at all during that time. All of a sudden, in 8 months, I made more progress than I did in 4 years combined, and I made that progress in that 8 months just by changing the way I approached like really small things. I got a little bit cleaner on food. I got a little bit more active. I put a little bit more time into like my mentality stuff. Like it wasn't like I made any major change in what I did on a day-to-day basis, but in 8 months, it was a humongous and a very major change in what it did for me, both spiritually, mentally, and physically. Yeah, 8 months sounds like a long time, but really in retrospect, it's actually not a very long time to achieve like some of the things that you can achieve in that time frame. You just have to stop looking at this like, I'm going to get this done, this challenge done, and at the end of it, like, I'm good. Like, that's it. I achieved what I needed to achieve. Like, now you kind of have to like keep cruising on and like take, he said earlier, like you make it really hard at first and then you cut it in half. You can still maintain that same linear progress.
Yeah, I think that sort of flows into like, people overestimate what they can accomplish in a week and underestimate what they can accomplish in a year or whatever it may be. Something like that. And it's like, you can do so much in a long period of time as long as you just sort of start doing it and do small things. And I think that that's part of it is not having a specific end date. Like you can have specific dates within it where it's like, I want to have a good beach body by such and such sort of thing. But like, if you view it as that's your stopping point, then there's really no point to it. You kind of have to just view it as like, going back to those principles of implementing the principles specifically, is like, we'll go over those principles in this podcast at some point, obviously, but like, the whole like calorie reduction thing, or eating enough protein, or doing your workouts and all that stuff, are principles of getting fit and healthy. All the same stuff for like improving your job performance or your social life or whatever it may be. There are principles within every single one of those things. And if you do those things without looking for the end results of those things, you can just sort of look at it as like, this will eventually help me, and it'll come faster than you think, basically. Yes. Is what Les is saying here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's our, a good stopping point for this, this podcast episode. But the real thing is like, we have compounding effort essentially when it comes to these things. And both of those words separately are very important to it. Basically, you have to do things that are small so that they compound on themselves, but they also have to be full of effort. Mm-hmm. It can't just be nothingness. It has to mean something to you, both mentally, physically, whatever it may be, that leads you to your goal that you are like seeking to accomplish. So with that, Les, is there anything else you want to add on the end here?
Stop sucking.
So stop sucking. Very simple from FortitudeRx Radio here. Hey, real quick, I want to thank you for listening and let you know about the resources in the show notes. You can catch both Les and me on Instagram for more content, as well as join FRxCircle, our private coaching community, where anyone can join that needs help with fitness, nutrition, mindset, lifting technique, rehab, or any other support. Just check out the resources section in the show notes. See you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of FortitudeRx Radio. You're officially one step closer to conquering your goals and living your best life. For more info or to connect with your host, check out FortitudeRx.com. We'll see you next time.